Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very exciting segment here today on Monday, the 24th of April. Well, tomorrow is the Anzac Day holiday, and I hope you're all prepared for it. We will obviously be going to our dawn service, which is at 4:30 a.m. At the Anzac Square right here in the city. And after that, there's so many other different functions and events that would be taking place in Brisbane. And I hope you had a very, very nice weekend. It was a very, very busy weekend. Brisbane is just a hive of activities. There's so much that's just happening out here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now, let's get on with the news today and see what's making news. And as we know, the breaking news, and then we will look at news in brief.
Long-awaited Defence Strategic Review today, which includes plans to rapidly acquire new missiles and boost a planned guided weapons project. It is one of the most significant defence documents since World War II. The review will also outline how Australia should acquire new long-range strike capability to deter rising threats from China.
A large-scale evacuation is underway in Sudan, with nations across the world scrambling to get their citizens and diplomats out of the capital Khartoum. More than 400 people have been killed since the conflict began 9 days ago. Many citizens are under siege, with power cuts and widespread violence as rival factions of the military continue to clash.
A man has been charged over the alleged fatal shooting of 40-year-old Taha Sabah in Western Sydney last month. The 26-year-old man was taken into custody late yesterday after reportedly trying to leave the country. Sabah was fatally shot outside a martial arts gym while in the company of a child.
And a major comedy festival has been criticised for its treatment of Barry Humphries as tributes continue to flow for the comedy great. Details of his funeral are still to be announced, but many are remembering him as a genius. The Melbourne International Comedy Festival removed his name from its top award in 2019 over his comments on transgender people. British-Australian actress and longtime friend Miriam Margolyes has accused the festival of mistreating the comedian.
And he will be dearly missed. What an icon. Well, right now, as the news said, tributes do flow in for him.
Barry Humphries went places few other performers would or could.
They've found me a better seat.
His comedy was biting, fearless and brutally funny.
You're looking wonderful.
I've had a little work done, but
Have you?
not quite as much as some.
News of his death drew tributes from around the world. Elton John said he was the funniest man ever and the sweetest man ever. Magda Szubanski said he blazed a glorious trail across the globe. We were blessed to be in your slipstream, she said. Ricky Gervais put it simply, farewell Barry Humphries, you comedy genius.
A great Australian, a comic genius.
To me, he was just my loyal and loving and most cherished friend. So it's very sad today.
Barry Humphries grew up in Melbourne's post-war suburbia and became its great caricaturist, especially through his most enduring creation. He began humbly as Edna Everage from Moonee Ponds and Sandy Stone, the returned gentleman of Gallipoli Crescent, Glen Iris.
Berylyn made a lovely fruit salad, which she put in a cut crystal bowl she keeps for best. Oh, she's had that bowl for donkey's years, but it's still got the proud sticker on it.
Both characters travelled with him to London in 1959, where Humphries turned his satirical eye towards boorish expatriate Australians in the comic strip and film of Barry McKenzie and the appalling diplomat Celeste Patterson.
I'm chairman of the Australian Cheese Board. I was sitting on the cheese board only this afternoon, as a matter of fact.
By then, Edna Everage was transforming into the genuine superstar she would become, even conquering an often bemused American market.
Do you live on an unpaved road, do you? No? I only say that looks as though you might have tried to put your makeup on in the car.
I loved him and I admired him. He stood for all the things that I admire. But we sharply disagreed politically. And it's joyous to me that it's possible to do that and still love somebody.
Barry Humphries once said he only became an actor to entertain himself. He battled alcohol in the 60s and was married 4 times. In 2012 he announced he was retiring Dame Edna, but the farewell stretched on. His legacy was tarnished towards the end of his career after making ugly and hurtful comments about transgender people. He died on the night the annual award that once bore his name was announced.
I think it's undeniably a powerful legacy for Australian comedy and on the international stage. I disagree very strongly with a lot of his politics, and I felt it was a shame that towards the end of his life he certainly lost the ability to read the room.
He leaves behind a body of work unmatched in Australian comedy.
What would you hope someone will say about you, whoever it may be, this living person?
I think at least you can say that you've seen him. Good night, Possum.
Well, as we know, when it is humor and when it is comedy, you need to take it in that spirit as well. An amazing, an Australian icon, will be remembered for a long, long time. Well, right now we go to Outback, where the fears of mice infestation as damaged crops plague New South Wales.
This corn crop at Coleambally might look normal from the outside, but something unusual's happening when you get up close.
That's definitely rodents, because you can see what's left behind there, the residue, and they're chewing into it.
Mice and rats are moving in on Michael Rosato's crop, eating the corn cobs by climbing up the stalks.
And we've seen an increased number of mice, some of them in the sample, and we've also seen rats around the property.
He's already baited twice since the corn was sowed in summer and is now trying to harvest before any more can be destroyed. But that keeps getting delayed by wet weather.
But it's mainly around the perimeter at this stage, so we're hoping it'll stay that way and we can beat them as far as harvest and getting it off before any more damage occurs.
Local agronomists are also spotting trails of destruction in sunflowers.
It's pretty evident the damage in the crop. They'll crawl up the stem of the plant and sit on the back of the head and then reach around and pull grains out of the head and then feed on the kernel.
The spike in rodent activity comes just 2 years after a mouse plague that devastated large parts of the country's east. While farmers aren't anticipating numbers to get that high this time around, they're still expecting crop losses of up to 5%.
No farmer wants to lose any percentage at this stage of his crop.
Rice is also a concern as farmers drain water from fields ahead of harvest.
Now this crop has been drained, I'm expecting that they will venture out further into the crop. While there's water on it, they tend to just stick to the edges.
There's hope mouse numbers will decrease during the cooler winter months, but farmers fear they could return by spring.
It depends how much rain we get early on and how that affects them.
One of the many challenges that come with life on the land. Romy Stevens, ABC News.
Life on the land has always been challenging, and as we know, farmers the backbone of any country. When we have troubles like this, in this case, mouse infestation. Well, right now, Melbourne Comedy Festival was criticised for cancelling Barry Humphries' show. Here's that report.
Just a day after his death, a lifelong friend of Barry Humphries has criticised Melbourne's major comedy festival over its treatment of the comedy legend in 2019. Actor Miriam Margolyes has spoken out, saying Humphries was hurt and saddened when the Melbourne International Comedy Festival removed his name from its top award in 2019 in response to his comments about transgender people. Margolyes says she disagreed with his political views but loved the comedian dearly.
Tributes have come from around the world after Barry Humphries' death. He's being remembered as a comic genius. Details of his funeral are still to be announced. Steph Ferrier has been following the story from Melbourne for us this morning. Morning, Steph. So first of all, let's just deal with this issue. So the comedian's being remembered as an industry trailblazer, but his latest years weren't the smoothest.
They certainly weren't, Mads. Good morning. And Miriam Margolyes has made these comments saying that she was friends with Barry Humphries since she was 17. And while she always thought that he was an amazing, talented and witty comic genius, her views really differed quite sharply politically from his. But she says that nevertheless she is absolutely outraged by the fact that, in her words, the Melbourne International Comedy Festival cancelled him. Now, this is in relation to the namesake Barry Award because, of course, he was instrumental in founding the festival, and he held that honour for the Barry Award from 2010 until 2019, but his name was stripped from that honour after he made comments about the transgender community in 2018. And as you just heard a little second ago, she said that he had more talent in his little finger than all of them put together in all of their bodies. This is what she had to say about that.
He loved to make people laugh, and I think he was very hurt and saddened by what happened after the Melbourne Festival, the so-called comedy festival. And he was acerbic, and he was often quite nasty, but he was a genius. And sometimes you just have to accept that.
And so that was Miriam Margolyes talking about the fact that she was so upset about what had happened to him in his later years by the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. Now, they have put out a statement saying that he was an amazing provocateur, but that obviously that his views had obviously differed from some. And they said that the award for that outstanding show was renamed to reinforce the equality and diversity that the festival community has always championed, saying that some of the views that he had made had baffled the comedy community as well. So at this stage, we still haven't heard whether or not there will be a state funeral for Barry Humphries here in Melbourne. The Victorian government says that it is in conversation with the Humphries family.
OK, thanks, Steph.
So they were up to date on Australian Indian Radio on this, the 24th, the Monday, a day before NSEC Day 2023, and it's 21 degrees out there and mostly sunny. Brisbane looking glorious at this time of the year. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now let's go to our functions and events, and then don't forget at 10 a.m. we have a very special interview coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you in this segment. Don't forget, at 10 a.m. we're coming with a very special program on the Bangla New Year and the Harmony Day celebration that will take place at the Brisbane Islamic College. And to talk about that, we'll have Hemendra Malik right here in the studios. So that interview coming up at 10 a.m. Until then, it's goodbye from us.